What's up guys, Jacob with TonalChemist Audio. This video, I'm going to tell you the only 9 plugins that you will ever need to mix. That's a crazy claim, but after 5 years of learning how to mix and going through about every single plugin that you can possibly think of, I've finally figured out which plugins you need and which you don't. And I've distilled them down to these 9 plugins. Now, before we get into it, if you enjoy these breakdown type of videos, go ahead and click subscribe and like the video so it can push it into the algorithm. I'd really appreciate it. Now, to get started, if you don't get anything that I am showing you on this, get a mix rack. Mix racks are basically every single one of these plugins all in one plugin bundle, which is not really a bundle. It's supposed to emulate a mix rack. So if you were to go to a commercial studio, you would see something on the studio desk that resembles like a rack, and it would have different hardware components that would kind of look like this in a line. So the first thing on this rack is a saturation knob. And by the way, this is the Sheps Omni Channel 2. All of these plugins that I'm going to show you in this video, I use personally. And also there is a gate plugin right here. There is a de-esser already inside of it for your vocals, analog EQ right here. And then there's also a built-in compressor. Right over here is a limiter, and then you got input and output. So you can see that just with this mix rack, you basically have everything you need to mix right here. Now, although mix racks are very useful because everything is all in one place, sometimes you don't want to use them because you want to use, let's say, a channel strip EQ in a very specific way. And when they're included in mix racks, you might not have as many ways to use that channel strip EQ, and it might only come with one type. So that's why the next plugin I have is the SSLG channel strip. Now this is basically the EQ channel strip that comes in the mix rack, but it's its own standalone plugin. And from now on, I'm going to be going over standalone plugins. So I love this thing. You have your highs right here. You have your mids in this section, and then you have your lows in this section. So highs, mids, and lows. And then sub is down here. So basically this acts as a console, but it's a plugin. So like if you wanted to add more 8K, you would basically just turn the knob this way. If you wanted to, add some more low end and around like 80 hertz, then you just increase the dB of 80 hertz. Also, another thing that I like about this plugin is it also has a gate feature. I don't really use the compressor that much, but I definitely use the gate a lot. You can use this on different effects that you want gated. Also, you can use this on drums. Now, next up on the list is the parametric EQ. Now, this is the classic. You may not know anything about mixing, but you've probably seen something like this. I use RIA EQ because I use Reaper. This comes automatically with the DAW, so I just use it stock. And really, if you're spending money on an EQ outside the DAW that comes with it natively, you better have a good reason for that, because the ones that come in DAWs already work really well. And basically, the reason why we have 2 different EQs is because this channel strip gives more of like an analog feel where you really have to use your ears. Now on parametric, there is more visual curves to it, but also it's for more surgical cuts. So, and for example, if we were to go, let's say like you wanted to boost like what it's on right now, you wanted to boost like 200 hertz. You don't really have control of any type of bands on this particular frequency range. So that's why it would be helpful to have parametric, because you can, for instance, if you want to increase like 100 hertz, you would literally make a band that goes like this just on that part. Whereas on this, you really don't know how big the band is. So your band might be like this big when you increase it, So it's just more for surgical cuts like that. Surgical cuts and boosts. Next up on the list is saturators. Now, I use Waves Little Tube a lot. There's a bunch of different other saturators. Sometimes I'll go over here and use this saturator because I really like that plugin. But I've been using Waves Little Tube a lot, and I like simplicity. I want to optimize how simple my mixes are. So a simple one knob saturator with a decibels out and just 3 different types of saturation, that is good enough for me. Basically what saturators do is they increase the amount of harmonics that are in the track, so it can make things sound more full and more present in your mix. Next is FET compressors. So these are special type of compressors because these usually go on individual tracks. So for this, I use the CLA 76. This is a classic compressor that a lot of producers and artists use for various things. I like to use this thing on about just any type of track except for like masters and instrumental buses, certain types of buses. I like if I want to compress a single guitar track or a single snare, I'm using a CLA 76. And I like this because there's 2 different variants. There's a bluey and a blackie. And it's just, again, all in all, very simple to use. There's no crazy, like there's 10 knobs on one plugin. It's just a simple 4 knob plugin. And it's really easy to learn and use, and it sounds amazing. Next is a bus compressor. I use Buster SE for this. So the reason why you have 2 different types of compressors is because one has a different functionality than the other. Bus compressors are literally made for compressing buses. So this would be your mix bus, your master bus, your guitar bus, your drum bus, any type of bus that you want to compress a bunch of different tracks in. I use this. This one has a lot more knobs, but it's pretty simple. This is the threshold and makeup. And then I can control the attack and release right here. And then this is how much it would compress, which is the ratio. And over here, I really don't ever use this part. I haven't found a use for it. What I really do is I use this part right here. So Buster SE is a great bus compressor. Now, next thing is multiband compression. I use TDR Nova for this, and where multiband compressors come in useful is, for instance, if you want to compress a track, but you only want to compress this low mid range, then you'll be able to do that. As you can see, we're just compressing that range. Whereas if you used a CLA 76 or a bus compressor, it would compress the entire frequency spectrum. What's nice about multibands is you can say, okay, maybe I'm having a lot of harshness around 2K. I'm just going to compress some of that out so when it hits in the mix, it doesn't overbear any other parts. You can notch that out right there. So it's basically like an EQ, but it has compression as well. Next is limiter. I use Limit for this. I also use FabFilter limiter as well. But these come default with most DAWs. This comes default with Reaper. And basically limiters just make it so like your audio is more squished together. So like your dynamics aren't as dynamic. This is great for vocals because a lot of the times when a vocalist is doing parts, sometimes they'll be really far away from their mic like this, or on more prominent parts, they're going to be like right inside of the mic. But as you can tell, this has a different loudness than this, right? But if you use a limiter and squash the waveform, this would sound as loud as this. So that's why I use limiters a lot on vocals and also your masters. Limiting on your master is what gives your mix the loudness it needs for it to be competitive against all the other songs on streaming platforms. So basically what I'm doing when I'm mastering is I'm squishing the entire track inside of a limiter so everything gets pushed to the front and the perceived loudness and actual loudness of the song coming out of the speakers is louder overall. Next is a stereo imager. I use Ozone Imager for this, and Ozone is great for widening up either very narrow stereo tracks or mono tracks that need to be stereoized. So you have a couple different features over here. You have the width, so this would be the percent of like how wide stuff is, and over here you have the mode. as well. And you can increase and decrease the amount of milliseconds that the wideness uses. So what that means is it can create a pretty cool stereo effect. So instead of widening out a vocal and both ears sound the same, you can make one hit 8 milliseconds before the other one, so you get this kind of nice, more natural stereo image rather than just expanding it out and then it sounds kind of artificial. So there you go. That is the only 9 plugins that you would ever need to mix for real. The only other plugin I could think of on top of this is just a LUF reader. LUFs are how loud your overall mix is or your overall track is. So what I would do is I would take a limiter on my master bus, push it over to a LUF software to measure my LUFs, but that's not even really a plugin. It doesn't change the sound. All that does is read how loud your mix is, basically. So I wouldn't even consider that a plugin. And now, if you watch this whole video all the way through, you are probably thinking, okay, well, which ones are free and how much is this going to cost me and all? I think we can agree that prices change all the time on plugins. So I'm just going to tell you which ones are free and which ones aren't, and you can go out and look at the prices for yourself. But I can guarantee you this list is going to be under $200. Like, I guarantee that. It would probably be less than $100. So this one, all the ones that I highlight in red or circle in red are paid. Mix racks are usually paid. EQ channel strips are usually paid. Parametric EQs come natively with your DAW. Saturators are usually paid. Compressors are usually paid. Bus compressors, well, actually this bus compressor is free. This multi-band compressor is free. This limiter is free with your DAW, and this stereo imager is free. Now, might I mention, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of the 9 that are free. So over half these plugins are free. And also, lots of these have free trials. And lots of them you can get on sale. And lots of them you can get free saturators. You can get free FET compressors. You can get free mix racks maybe. You can get free EQ channel strips. But the reason why I still keep these right here free and I don't move to paid versions is because I don't really need to, and it doesn't really impact the overall sound of my mix. The only reason why I paid for the paid ones right here is because I knew that these specifically are going to have a big impact on my mix, and I want something that has quality to it. So if this video inspired you, made you think, made you learn something new, I really appreciate it if you share this video with another artist, producer, whoever that might need this information. And also, don't forget to subscribe and like and comment because that helps me out a lot. I'll respond to all comments. Now, before I go, I do have a completely free metal mixing plugin cheat sheet that basically goes over the 9 plugins that I showed you in this video more in depth. Not only will I explain more on how each of these plugins work specifically for metal mixes, but I will also give you the free alternatives to these plugins inside of this cheat sheet. So go pick it up right now. It's in the link in the description. I also have a bunch of other free stuff like mix trainings and also Reaper templates. So that being said, I will see you in the next video.